Be it at the movies, on TV, or when you forget to get your premium Spotify subscription, ads are with us everywhere. And most of the time, video game developers make fun of them, creating fictional brands and being more ironical with them, like for example in Fallout or GTA. However, some developers don't feel any shame at all and use the space in games as a great space for product placement. Here are some ads in video games that won't make you buy those real-life products.
Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear.
One of the basic elements of gameplay in Remedy's Alan Wake was the flashlight we used to fight the enemies by removing a shroud of darkness surrounding them, later to finish them off with bullets. And since Alan Wake was greatly inspired by the survival horror subgenre, the supplies weren't everlasting and we had to restock often, mostly batteries that died quickly. Someone at Microsoft or Remedy might have thought it would be a great idea to strike a deal with a battery manufacturer, and voila, the batteries in the game were bearing the Energizer logo. While it was a nice little Easter egg, I doubt that the product placement changed brand awareness among gamers who probably were using a wired controller anyway, as it was way cheaper. Ironically, the batteries didn't last long, and the Energizer commercial was later pulled in the following DLC to be replaced by a fictional brand. And we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, no one wants to see their product fail, right? For the same reason, we're destroying only fictional cars in Burnout franchise, and as of this day, car manufacturers are reluctant to license their cars in games where they might be destroyed. And speaking of Burnout, there's this one peculiar advertisement I remember vaguely seeing back in 2008 in Burnout Paradise when I was playing online. It was a series of ads for the Obama campaign back when he was running for the president for the first time. EA admitted to have struck a deal with the presidential candidate, and similar ads were seen in their other games, like Madden or NBA, for a short while just before the November election in 2008. While the idea seems to be pretty original and rarely do politicians try to appeal to gamers, I strongly believe that such practices shouldn't take place. Games are overall a work of art, and art shouldn't be political. Imagine, if you will, that just before the elections in your country, local servers were endorsing certain politicians or parties. The hate talk and trolling would have been endless. Thank you very much. I'll take the battery commercial over an election ad.
Not too many guys got the stomach for this line of work. We need guys like you.
Another product that made its way into games was the well-known Playboy magazine. There was even a game solely intended to promote the Playmates and Hefner's brand. Playboy The Mansion, which was a rather poor Sims clone with some economic elements. Apart from that, the issues of the Playboy magazine were also featured in games like Mafia 2 or Dead Rising 2, in form of collectible items. In Dead Rising, it was a small stat boost, while in Mafia, various issues of the magazine were scattered across the game world. Considering that in recent years the magazine has been dropping drastically in sales due to easily accessible internet pornography, a choice of product placement in video game seems like a bad decision. Despite the magazines not representing the beauty standards and trends of the era in which Mafia was set, it was an overall nice addition, but one which was mostly enjoyed by teenagers and young gamers. Trying to appeal to an average gamer with such a magazine is doomed to fail, as an average gamer is well aware of the internet where such or even better content is just a few clicks away.
Go home, Liam. Wait for the call. I'm sure your wife misses you.
Speaking of ill-placed products and games, one have to mention yet another game by Remedy, the recent Quantum Break. In the episodes of the live-action show within the game, which chronicled the side stories of the employees of the evil Monarch Corporation, we could often see a certain brand. Everyone in Monarch seems to be a huge fan of the Windows Phone system, as no other phones exist in the game. I know it was tempting for Microsoft to feature their product in the exclusive game, but come on, no hacker or an IT employee in their right mind would use a Windows Phone. Seeing how far behind they are in terms of software compared to iPhones or Android devices, the only thing that was missing in the game was a scene in which someone is trying to download the latest app, but it's not available on Windows Phone. No wonder the bad guys failed in the end.
If they catch you, it's a wrap. And if they don't, be ready to run. Forever, and ever, and ever, and ever, and ever.
It's only natural that Tony Hawk is the face of a skateboarding game, or that Ubisoft's games that are in some way connected to the work of late Tom Clancy bear his name. It's not uncommon for famous people to endorse games or even put their name on the cover, at least when it makes sense. If not, you might get an action game which promotes clothing from a fashion designer. That was the case with Mark Echo's Getting Up Content Under Pressure, a game nearly forgotten nowadays, which focused on the life of a graffiti artist. As Train, the game's protagonist, we broke the law, fought the cops, and most importantly, made graffiti. The concept was promising, but the reviews were overall mediocre, as the critics gave their not-so-favorable verdict. Echo soon responded that the reviewers were slaves to the code, whatever that means, and those gamers that didn't like the game probably got wedgies and were bullied back in high school. It turns out you can't promote your clothing line with an action game and be happy about it. Sometimes product placement in games affects the gameplay, other times the story and the setting. There are also ads that have nothing to do with the game and end up littered across the game world, like various billboards or ads in the real world. Skate 3 excessively tried to make us aware of the T-Mobile brand. In Need for Speed Underground 2, Burger King was the only fast food restaurant in the world, while in certain editions of Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, Snake could find bags of Doritos chips. There are also games that don't limit themselves to a single product. Take Splinter Cell Chaos Theory for example. In one level, we could see a neon axe sign or a screensaver with a certain Nokia phone model, and best of all, in this game, Sam was a huge fan of the Airways chewing gum. Those brands, however, were not referenced in the game a lot and didn't make us cringe that much. When it comes to cringeworthy product placement, the number one spot goes to a rather forgotten Judge Dredd vs. Death, a shooter by Rebellion. The game itself was rather mediocre, just barely better than the terrible Stallone movie, so no wonder no one seems to remember it. What caught our attention was the inclusion of the Red Bull brand in Dredd's dystopian future. In one mission, we were tasked with stopping a gang which was smuggling a shipment of Red Bull, and Red Bull boxes were featured prominently in the level. Seriously, that's the most dangerous drug you can smuggle? What's next for the criminal mastermind that orchestrated this perfect heist? Selling a shipment of nachos and chocolate bars? Luckily for us, gamers, those small inclusions of ads are just experiments that are doomed to fail, as most of the time developers, if they want to make a quick buck of course, tend to focus more on microtransactions, for better or for worse. It seems as if ads and commercials in games are only welcome when they are ironical or in the form of a joke, like in GTA or Fallout. And let's hope it stays that way, that our favorite games aren't littered with commercials that destroy the fun from playing. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more at GamePressure.com.